So this week I wanted to do another follow up on this whole concept of theory. You may be worn out from it, but here we go anyway. Um, we talked about uh, hypotheses, theories, and then there was a follow up to that no theory is ever proven. That didn't sit well with some people. Um, and I'll talk about that briefly. But I decided to call this more, my focus is going to be on theory and experience. And really, experience is the root of a lot of assumptions. If people, oh, I had an experience like this. So, you know, going back to, you know, one comment that I got and some feedback that I got that were communicated to me were, you know, evidence is the proof, type of thing. Well, it is, but only under the conditions in which you ran the experiment or the conditions in which you used whatever theory you're operating with. Um, how the evidence is collected and in what manner, uh, what conditions did you run the experiment under? And this is one of the reasons why I'm so against copying a competitor or hiring, some hot executive from another company. Is it doesn't guarantee success in a different when something comes from a different system. You know, there are such differences between the system in your company versus a system of a competitor, or that an executive worked in and maybe even a different industry or even the same industry. It doesn't really matter. um, the conditions in which that executive operated, the conditions in which that competitor used whatever theory or process or whatever you want to call it, that you're copying, yeah, it came from a different system. And I've always said copying will, leave you behind. If you think about it, you know, there is something with that competitor that may be in their system that allows for innovation and doing things, and just copying somebody else doesn't give you what you need in order to constantly come up with new ideas and things of that sort. And that's why copying competitor will ultimately end in failure. Um, and there's a lot of that you get for when you hire an executive from another company, because they're so successful and this person must be really good, but your system's different. Unless you're going to hire buy out the company, then if that's going to be it, because you know you can win with the current company that you have. um, I'm not saying that there aren't skills or things that an executive from another company aren't worth having, but what I am saying also is making the assumption um, that what this executive brings to the table will work in your system is a pretty big jump. Uh, and like I said, every company is different. Every system is different. Um, and so this concept of, I hear it a lot from executives. It's not changed over the years. It's the same thing I hear. We have lots of experience in this particular area, and then I find out their experience was from 30 years ago. And how much has changed is what I'm more interested in, rather than how, because your market's changed over 30 years. It's not the same. If it is, then there's another problem, because that means your industry or your system isn't changing in order to find better ways of doing things. And the whole experience route is based in the hypotheses that are out there. And it was W. Edwards Deming that said experience by itself teaches nothing. It requires a theory in order to observe and collect data on and test and so forth. And so you need to have theory in order to have observation and data and things of that sort. And as I stated in the original part, I guess, of this series. I'll probably put it under a playlist. I don't know what I'll call it, something probably around the line of theory. But that a hypothesis or your experience, unless there's a theory that comes out of it, you have nothing to really test. You're testing the hypothesis. You're collecting data. You're observing what's going on in your system in order to come up with a theory that's operating in your organization. And really, that's a lot of what I'm doing when I'm studying organizations customer in, is trying to get that view that what theories are at work. And I use that in my training program I have for executives. What theories are at work, being conscious about it. And I talked about that quite a bit in the first episode or 2 episodes ago. And so, once we get the observation and we get the data and we get, some type of testing associated with a hypothesis, now we have some type of theory that we're knowledgeable about, that we're seeing operate in our system. And, the interesting thing about this is especially with experience, is the famous Mark Twain quote, which is, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." And that's what you run a lot with experience, is these hypotheses that, you maybe feel worked or maybe you think work. But, it doesn't follow along with that there's always a better theory that's out there, and that you can grasp new theories. And if you're using the same theory from 30 years ago, I'm not saying 100% that's wrong, but there's probably a better theory. And you can tell by the turnover of companies, in the Fortune 500 and, in the NASDAQ, that there is always, a better theory that's coming out. And if you're stagnant, then you're not constantly searching for, the better theory, then you're going to be stuck, hoping that your market lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever, especially these days. The lifespan of an organization, used to be 20 some plus years, and now it's like less than 10. So we're cycling through companies because they find something that makes them money. They get stuck in that theory, and then they think that that's going to work forever, and it doesn't. So, that's really what I wanted to cover this week, to just kind of tie things up on this notion of theory. And also, it's a short week with Thanksgiving happening this week here in the States. So the translation of always a better theory is that there is always a better way, which I end every episode with. So keep that in mind.